Mason,
Yes, sir.
you want to hear a story?
Yep.
So, we're going to have some stuff in here. Well, I got to figure out how I'm going to tell this story because there's some stuff in here that I could have handled a lot better. Anyways, let's get to the fun part of it. I had a project for the general contractor I work for, and they had asked us at the last minute to install a steam shower from Wayfair, and this is not in any way what we usually do. We had a contract to do other work in these people's house. If someone asks us to do a Wayfair installation of that shower, typically we're going to say no, but because we had an additional scope in there already, we said yes to try and just be...
Why Wayfair specifically?
Just to kind of give an idea of, it's not the high-end finishes that we typically deal with when we're building custom.
Okay.
So, I feel like I sound echoey.
That's all right.
All right, we'll figure it out for next podcast. Anyways, so plumber came out, assembled the thing, hooked it up to the drain, and then we needed the electrician to come out and hook up the electrical. So it's a 220 volt. There is a whip of wires coming off the back, and there's 3 wires. So for all my nerds out there, this is going to become important if you want to follow along. So in 220, that means you have 2 hot legs. You'll have a neutral, or you'll have a neutral and a ground, typically. In our case, we had 2 hot legs and a ground wire, no neutral wire. So the electrician pulled a neutral wire and installed a GFCI breaker at the panel because he wanted to make sure that it's safe, that no one gets electrocuted and barbecues themselves in the shower. But he's like, hey, I don't have, the whip that you have has 2 hot wires and a ground wire. It does not have this extra neutral wire to finish this off. So, I'm going to skip a part. He left the first time. We ended up having him come back after we talked to one of the distributors about how this is supposed to be wired up. And they gave us instructions on how to do it. He tries it. The distributor's wrong. So I end up calling a couple electrician friends of mine that were not this gentleman who owns his own company, that's been in the business for a long time, is a licensed contractor. And I asked him, I'm like, hey, here's what I'm looking at. I sent the first guy a picture and called him, said, hey, here's what I'm looking at. And he's like, so you have a GFCI breaker, which off of that, you're going to have the hot wires coming into it. You're going to have a neutral wire that gets attached to the neutral bar. And then there's going to be the ground wires that come from the panel and ground everything, and it attaches nicely. This is a lot of nerd talk for essentially what he told me was an extra wire was run unnecessarily. So go over to the steam shower, put a wire nut on it, close the thing up, now try it. Sure enough, fires right up. I'm like, so you're telling me we've had this guy out twice to do this? Do you hear something?
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like water.
Oh, yeah, it's probably Brad's. It's leaking in Brad's office. I should go check that out.
But we had this guy out. Is it bad?
I mean,
Aren't they redoing the roof in this place anyway? Oh, it's the AC unit? That sucks. But yeah, I had this guy out twice, and it was a little frustrating. Just that.
What does it take to be a licensed contractor?
To be a licensed contractor, it depends on the trade that you're going into. But we'll say to be a general contractor, an electrician, HVAC, or plumber, Those require 4 years in the trades, and that's going to be the big thing. They're looking for experience. So they want you to, when you're submitting your application, to be able to, and this is kind of the stupid part for Arizona, you're going to sign a document that says you have the experience. So when the general contractor I work for went in to get his, he had to provide the 4 years of work experience, the people that he worked for, and 10 jobs over $10,000 that he had a primary role in. And so when I went in to start my application, I asked like, hey, what does the process look like? They laid out, you need to submit these documents as far as like, just like a clean, no criminal record, all that stuff, like all these. And then I finally asked them like, okay, yeah, but what about the experience? They're like, oh yeah, now we just have you sign that you have it. So if you really wanted to, and you can pass the 2 tests, you can walk in there and be like, yep, I've been in construction for 4 years and I'm good to go for this trade. It's a little scary how easy it is on that front. They're swamped with work, and their big thing is kind of finding culprits after the fact for the Registrar of Contractors, because they're trying to find, it's when they get complaints about people doing poor work, there's a whole system and a process that they go through, because sometimes you're going to have contractors who did a very bad job that there's legal action that needs to be taken, and sometimes you have people who are being too nitpicky according to the contract that was set, or just disregarding what they signed as a customer, things like that. So that's what usually the Registrar of Contractors is bogged down with. So you'll see a lot of guys who are doing work unlicensed, even for jobs that that they're not supposed to be doing. And as long as they're doing good work and paying their taxes, they're not usually going to get targeted, and they're not looking to hunt those people down because they've got so much other legitimate stuff they need to actually be investigating.
So just like any other trade, not everybody's created equal.
No, not at all. Yeah, but it was very frustrating on our end, because I looked at it as, I'm like, dude, what's going on? And then,
well, the fact that another electrician could tell you what to do from a picture that's the.
And let me put it this way: the guy who told I dual confirmed it with 2 electricians who they got into it like, so they have several years of experience, but they're younger than I am. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So they're not idiots. They work for, one works for a utility company and one works for an industrial company, and one of them did have residential experience, and so they're both very good at their jobs. So they were able to figure it out very quickly to be like, oh, they did it wrong. This is how you GFCI protect it correctly and not trip your breaker every time. But yes, it was very frustrating that I'm like, this gentleman owns his own company, and I had people figure it out from a picture.
I'm assuming you don't use that company anymore?
We do use that company.
Oh, you do?
Yes, we do.
Just request somebody else now?
I'll talk to you about it once we get off the podcast.
Fair enough.
That was the owner of the company.
That did it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. So, might want to find a different company.
They're good at what they do. They've got guys that are good at what they do. They're working on our multi-million-dollar project in Phoenix right now. So, I'm sure it was just this one thing that they probably didn't have experience with, because even the first time they came out to look at it with us, there was some questions on it in regards to, hey, it seems like something's missing, but
yeah,
it seems a little odd.
Yeah, that is a little weird.
So, yeah. But anyway, what have you been up to last week? I should say last 2 weeks, right? Because we had the guest on last week.
Yep, so I wasn't able to make the guest speaker just because I was pulling solo dad duties for a full week. The wifey was out of town, Florida actually, for her sister's 40th birthday.
Dang.
So that was nice. And I was busy.
That was nice.
Yes.
Nice to have the wife out of the house for a bit.
Well, yeah, but I was busy. Of course, you know, like, you have nothing going on, you're not busy, and as soon as you get busy, everything else starts coming up.
Yeah. When it rains, it pours.
Yeah, exactly. So that was fun, because also, while Mom was away, the kids have, the boys, they're 8, about to be 9 in a couple months. So, but 8 and, I should know this, 6.
We're going to have to return that Dad of the Year mug.
I know. They've mentioned it before and, like, joked around before about getting their ear pierced. I was like, dude, I got my ear pierced when I was 7. I saw Michael Jordan had his ear pierced, and my mom let me get my ear pierced. We went to Walmart for something. We had to get, like, I don't know, something stupid from Walmart. And there's a Claire's there. I was like, hey guys, look, there's a Claire's. You guys want to get your ears pierced? They're like, yeah. Keep in mind that Mom was not for this at all. So what did we do? We got the ears pierced. And I put because I have both my ear pierced now. Well, I haven't worn them in like 7, 8, 10 years or whatever now because I feel like I'm too old for them.
Yeah.
But I put them in and we FaceTimed her. And then I could just tell that she looked at my ears and then she looked at the boys and she was like, what the fuck did you do? They love it though.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Exactly. But she was treating it like like I got the kids a tattoo. And it was forever on their body that they could never get rid of. I'm like, they can just take the earring out and it'll close up.
Yeah.
I was like, mine won't close up because I've had them for almost 30 years.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was funny. Kind of funny. Yeah, but she wasn't happy. The boys like it. They take care of it too. They clean it every day with the little solution stuff. You don't know, you don't have your ear pierced. Yeah. So, we did that a couple weeks ago.
That's hilarious.
Mm-hmm. And it's going strong.
Did she give you shit for it when she came back?
Yeah, she's still like, I can't believe you did that to my kids.
Do you just respond with, our kids?
I just respond with, they're not tattoos. Take them out.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really have nothing crazy, you know?
I feel like that's crazy enough for your week right
That
there.
is crazy,
Your
yeah.
wife is probably like, that's crazy enough for the month.
Mm-hmm. Although, and then my oldest son, he's very thespian.
Mm-hmm.
So last Saturday, he did like a little, you ever hear those infomercials on the radio, if you listen to the radio about, you know, like casting calls to be on like the next Disney star or whatever? Mm-hmm. So I signed him up for like a little like audition thing and he did it. But of course I knew that it was like, obviously it was like a pitch. It was super hardcore, but like at the end I'm like, there's some kind of pitch. And of course it's like, you know, come a part of this casting agency and then we'll book you auditions and stuff. And it costs, you know, I think it was like $2,000 or something like that. Obviously, which we're not going to do. But he thoroughly enjoyed it, so we're probably going to look into, you know, they've got a bunch of different theater stuff, you know, that you can do.
Yeah.
And see how he does with that.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it was cool. Yeah, we'll go down there. Yeah, unfortunately, because he has the bloodline from 2 college basketball players, but doesn't enjoy sports, and he got his athleticism from his Nana, my mother-in-law, which is 0. So he's going to be like and she has height on her side. Like her dad's like 6'4", her grandma was like just as tall as me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he's been the biggest kid always. So he's going to be a 6'4", left-handed thespian. You
don't think that like he might grow into it? Let puberty hit, let him start putting on some muscle.
Yeah, maybe, but you know, like a lot of people who play sport. Not saying that a lot of people who play sports, like, you know, they enjoy it as kids.
Yeah.
You know, so but like he does, like, he's played in a couple basketball leagues and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't mind playing basketball, but he really enjoys the like playing with other kids. He's very social, so he enjoys meeting new kids, playing with them, and stuff like that, rather than the actual basketball game.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but yeah, so that was cool.
Nice.
You do anything cool?
I ended up working Friday and then a little bit of Saturday because needed a little extra materials, so just came back and wrapped up my job on Saturday. So that was cool.
What job did you do?
There's one that Joe and I did before my wedding back in May that needed some extra work finished up over there, so they had me out there to wrap up some baseboards and some door trim. So just took care of that real quick, and yeah.
Yeah, I was telling you earlier, you're gonna have to come grade my work for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm, I guess, remodeling. And not really remodeling because it's a newer house, but
Hey,
just
we're on the podcast, so we're definitely remodeling.
yeah, well, adding stuff to it. Like I bought a one of those backlit mirrors or whatever, because we didn't, you know, they charge an arm and a leg for, you know, to upgrade your like lighting fixtures or whatever. Yeah, so we're like, I'll just change that over time. So I took that out and I put in a recessed lighting above,
like a can light.
A can light above it, because they make the ones really cool where you don't have to put in the fucking whole fixture and stuff.
Did you get the thin one?
Yeah, the thin one too, and then also too it's got a little connection thing, so you can change the brightness of it. Because I hate how all our light bulbs are kind of like these ones. They're like the yellowish ones. Yeah,
you can turn it more to the blue light.
But I will say it is super bright in there because the half bath is not big.
Yeah.
But then also, I got another piece of the beadboard that you put up for the little mud area.
Yeah.
So like the back wall where the sink and the toilet is going to be, and we have like what, 9-foot, 10-foot ceilings?
Yeah, 10-foot.
10-foot ceilings. So we're doing the beadboard long ways all the way up. So I had to take off the pedestal. I had to take out the sink. Yeah, I had to take out the sink. And then, you know, you got to cut all the holes for And then on top of it, a little nerd talk, but we have all our houses, the new Apex, the push-pull off valves, where, you know, you pull it to shut it off, push it. Well, hey, the people who installed it, the pedestal, you know, it's curved in, and on the hot side, they butted it against it, so I couldn't shut the water valve off. So, like, yeah, I had to, like, take the sink off, shift it, and the freaking bottom pedestal thing, like, started to fall, and, like, I tapped it lightly with my knee, and then it went and wobbled back into place. And then I had to hold it and then reach around and shut the water off, and then I could unhook the it was a disaster. But I had to do that, and then I googled stuff, and every single plumber hates those push-pull things. So I had to put a quarter turn valve on those. And then I'm still not even close to done. I bought the mirror, which is what I mainly wanted to put up, and it turned into this thing. And then I'll probably put up crown molding in there and then paint the walls, but you'll have to judge my work.
There's a job that I was on several years ago, and it turned into probably $500,000. It started from a conversation of the lady of the house wanted a double oven.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's, well, if we're going to do that, we should do this, and just snowballed.
Yeah. I'll say we're actually going to talk about it later in the podcast, but like, I think all the stuff cost me less than $100.
Oh, really?
And I took a before picture, so I'll have to bring in the before and after picture when I'm done.
We throw it in that podcast whenever you're done with it.
It's really cool, although it's going to take me longer than what if I just paid you to do it. But I like to do like little home things. But I know what's going to take me 2.5 years and have, you know, the lady friend just yell at me. Why isn't it done? She's already been irritated because we haven't had a mirror in the house. Because I took our mirror off because one of the houses I was selling, her house like didn't have a mirror, but I was like, oh yeah, I'll just take mine off and I'll put it up on yours. And I took it, and because I ordered the mirror already,
Yeah.
so I took it off. But it's been like that was back in March, or
It still hasn't shown up.
no, I have it. It's been sitting in my garage. Yeah, I just now started to do the project because you guys, I had some motivation because you guys were there doing stuff. I was like,
Yeah.
I should probably get this going so
Yeah.
I don't get in trouble.
Which we've got day one of the project at your house up on the YouTube channel right now. So if anyone wants to go take a look at that, we'll have to. We didn't do a video the second day because we're in a mad scramble to get to another project that was a little repair but needed.
It was a
dire
disaster.
attention. Yeah, is.
It is, yeah. I'll say I can do small patches, but generally, like I'm talking like small patches where it's not in the middle where everybody's going to be. It's like hidden somewhere,
Yeah.
or somewhere low.
In the back of a closet.
Yeah, because drywall. I don't know how these fuckers get these. Like I mean, I've had back our first house. I had a handyman come like patch a couple holes that were in the middle, and it's like you had to really look for something to be wrong with
Yep.
it. I don't know how they do that. They're
So-
so good at their job.
Yeah, which drywall actually.
Oh, we're
was
talking
on-
about drywall too today. Oh, weird. Oh, that's funny, but
Which-
yeah.
In some ways, if we could just jump into it right now because we'll have a phone call here in a little bit. But
Well then, yeah. Fuck it. Let's get started. You ready to get hammered?
ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sledgehammers in the Office podcast, where we celebrate the heavy hitters on the job site and in the office. Today, I'm joined by Mason Oxendale. What are we drinking?
Cheers. I've got my my water jug. It's very difficult for me. Just to get, my goal is to drink 80 ounces of water. It's very difficult for me to do that. So I'm trying to be more vigilant with that. But yeah, I got my water. Nothing fancy like yours.
Yeah. Shamrock Farms chocolate milk, the whole milk, because it's our favorite. Let's hit our numbers real quickly before we start jumping into some of the drywall stuff and the other things we were hinting at. So, active number. This is going to be Greater Phoenix area to give you a reference. So this isn't going to be the whole nation, but use this as a guideline if you're in the Greater Phoenix area. Congratulations, this is for you. 7,945 active homes are listed on the MLS right now. That is going to be down 264 from last month. We've closed 5,042, which is down 304 from a month ago. Interest rate is at 7%. 2x4s are $3.53, which this is up 28 cents. So everyone go ahead and panic. Not really. Plywood is at $21 a sheet, and that is up $4.65. So that's the number I would really pay attention to. Your half-inch copper pipe, no change on that one. So the reason why plywood becomes important is because for a lot of houses in Arizona, we're stuccoing all of them. So they're putting up the OSB on top of the house, on the exterior of the houses before they throw the stucco up. So when you go up $4.65 a sheet, that's going to really start to affect some of those numbers. Before we move away from the active inventory and the closed inventory, I saw a headline today, and honestly, there's a podcast I listen to fairly regularly, and they seem to have a lot of the sky is falling type of market analysis, and they've had it for quite a while, and apparently the housing market was supposed to have fallen off a cliff a while ago.
Where are they based out of?
They are in Florida.
Okay.
So I do not in any way want to deny that the housing market has changed, because we talk about that and we continue to talk about what are the changes, what are the updates that we see. But they're talking about how the house closings have hit a low, like a new low in the last 30 days. And from what we've been tracking with our numbers just for the Greater Phoenix area, I'm like, we can go back, we haven't been doing the podcast regularly, like our weekly show, for a year, and I know that the 5,000 number is not the lowest that we've tracked at all. Mm-hmm. So it's, like I said, this is the Greater Phoenix area, and maybe the whole United States is seeing that more than Phoenix is, and congratulations for us. But at the same time, too, I'm just like, hey, when you're preaching the sky is falling all the time, I think I said it last week or the week before, you're going to be right at some point. But, like...
Well, would you say the same thing, but the world is ending, people?
Oh yeah, definitely. They're hilarious.
Are they eventually going to be right?
Oh,
I mean, they won't be around when it does.
well, you never know. They could be right tonight, and they could be right in 10,000 years,
Yeah.
and no one knows,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
the sky's falling at some point, but it's when you're trying to be an expert and almost use this magic crystal ball to say, hey, here's what's going on, here's how you should be reacting to this. It's like, guys, let's be like, if we're falling off a cliff, let us know that we're going off of a cliff. But when we're talking about it for months on end, there's a YouTube channel that I saw over 6 months ago that had videos 18 months prior talking about the housing crash. And if you had gone back 18 months, we were towards the beginning of the housing market just going absolutely bananas. So it's like, it's going to go back to that guy. Whenever something does happen in the housing market, he's going to be able to stand up and be like, I was right. It's like, dude, if you say it's going to rain long enough, at some point, water's going to fall on your head, and it might be rain, it might be a bird just pissing on you while it flies by, but...
Yeah, see, I mean, I follow people on Instagram, I watch YouTube videos, I listen to podcasts of a bunch of different people, just to keep a finger on the pulse, kind of, seeing what everybody... Because 99% of these people, like, when they're doing all this stuff, like, it's opinionated.
Yeah.
And a lot of these people are swayed by where they are currently located.
Yeah.
And what they're, Florida is different. A lot of, like, people from New York, they say the same things. So that's going to sway their opinion. But again, that's just their opinion. Like, give me some statistical information on, other than the number of closings compared to last year or 2 years.
Which we might be able to even pull it up for versus last year, but
we'll do something like that at the end of the year.
Yeah, we should.
Or because when we first
we've
start,
got November 18th.
Yeah, so we'll do like November 18th and go over that stuff too. But I will say, so when you take your numbers by like over the last 4 weeks, right?
Essentially,
Yeah.
usually I compare it to when did we do the podcast roughly a month ago. So I compared today's against June 26th.
Yeah, because I mean, real estate, just like everything else, it's highs and lows. It goes to roller coaster, up and down. Everything is like that. Nothing stays up, nothing stays down. Kind of. Well,
Yeah.
some things do stay down when they just die.
Yeah.
But anyways, so like I keep track on more of a weekly basis, and I think last week / the beginning of this week was the first time in a long time, because we've been slowly going down like 150, 200 every week, but this is the first week where we were actually plus 9 homes. Granted, I know I take I do a little bit different, like I take out some of the manufactured homes and stuff like that, so, but it's like the first time in a while where we've seen it where it's not going down. So it's like, okay,
And
granted, it could go down this week, so then it's like we're still on the down part of the roller coaster. Yeah. But I mean, we're showing signs where we might be on more of the level part, and then figuring out if we go high or low from there.
And then look at the active homes on the market too. If you have less than 8,000 homes in the market.
Oh yeah, that's what I was referring to. No, sorry, not closed.
Oh,
yeah. We had 9 more active homes, because our problem is our inventory kept dropping.
Yeah.
I mean, our closed homes, I mean, that's a lot of homes, 5,000 closed homes in a week.
Yeah, because if we were to go back to, I think we were closing, I can't remember, but we had 16,000 active homes. And it may have been like around, this is going to bother me. I'm going to check. Because I can pull
it was the beginning of the podcast.
Yeah, I can pull up the numbers real quick, because I know that I referenced it. There it is. When we first started the podcast, this is the numbers for November 18th, 2022. Active homes were 15,857. Currently, we are at 7,945.
Here's a big difference too.
Well, here, let me do the closed numbers. Right now, like we said, we closed 5,042 in the last 30 days. Give me a guess on what we closed in a month period on November 18th.
5,000.
4,222. So that is less than we did in the last 30 days right now. That is also when we had almost double the active inventory in November. So we have less homes for sale, and we have closed more in the last 30 days. And you can go back and check all the podcasts that we've done. Check every single fucking one that in the middle we do our numbers. You can watch the trend, because the trend has been we went up to 16,000 active homes, and then we've come down to just below 8,000. And what happened? I think we went from 4 to 6,000 that closed in a month, and we've trickled down to 5.
What date is that?
From November to today.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is that you want to keep track more of to see like what happened or the spikes, low and high.
Yep.
From November to here, we've had a slow trickle. That's a natural progression of the highs and lows of any kind of markets. So there's nothing like 2020, the 2008. There's nothing driving anything. Obviously interest rates are probably helping keeping that low and stuff. But we're just on that curve path. It's following the same exact curve path that it shows every single year, where we don't have some kind of crazy national catastrophe.
Right. And then one of the things too that I asked Steve Cameron when he was on the podcast last week, because they do photography for some of the largest new build contractors in the nation. I was like, when you look at what you're doing with the photography, how are the builders doing? Because there's some people that are spreading that sky is falling type of analysis. I remember them talking about new build starts are down to their lowest in however many years, and they're killing it. They're absolutely killing it for these builders.
Again,
these builders are still building houses. It's like, guys, we didn't just turn the faucet off and no one's selling homes and no one's buying a house and nothing's on the market. It's like, let's stop. We talked about this at the beginning when we started the podcast. What do we want to do? We want to be very clear and transparent with what is actually happening.
Yeah, and the amount of people that bought homes from the year 2020 to 2021 is a lot. So a lot of people have houses. They haven't been in it long. Also, they bought houses at the higher price point. So
with an extremely low interest rate, so most people are not going to be incentivized to move.
Yeah, and not every person who buys a house, you get instant equity. And you're going to have the highs and lows no matter what. You're buying it for the long term.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Probably wasn't that important anyways. But yeah, a lot of people have homes already. So it's like, of course the inventory is probably going to be low. But I mean, there's a new swoop of people coming in. Also, the one thing, the difference of Arizona to most places is that we have so much land to expand. You go to New York, I'm not too sure what Florida's like, but it's like,
They had a ton of people fill that whole thing up.
Yeah, New York and stuff like that. They can't build out anymore. They have to build up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like our market's a little bit different. And a lot of people are moving here because Arizona's badass.
Yep.
Except for right now when it's 120.
Yeah. It's been a little hot.
We do know that, but yeah.
We did want to talk about some drywall stuff before we start our phone call for the night. Talking about drywall. So we're just... One of the things I wanted to talk about is because I've got drywall happening at the project that I'm on. We just wrapped that up. And then the large house that is going up in Phoenix.
My house.
Yep. So we've had lots of drywall stuff going on recently. But just to kind of break it down for people as far as like, hey, what are you paying for when it comes to drywall? Because you can go to Home Depot and you see the sheets of drywall. And it's like, okay, that gets attached to the wall. But that's not, like, you don't just paint that. There's drywall mud that goes on it, and then there's texture. So depending on... The big thing that you're usually, in my mind, going to pay for with drywall is the texture that's on there. Because like you said, it's very difficult to match the texture. In my opinion, some of the hardest things to do is going to be to match spray texture. So there's several ways to do... No. I'm on the podcast. Hopefully I didn't screw up the camera. You're supposed to call me back earlier. No.
We're talking about textures.
Yeah.
Different ways to do textures.
Textures. So you're going to have a flat texture, which is a completely smooth wall. That's going to be hand texture. You're going to see what's called skip trowel, which is going to look kind of like a lot of small quarter-sized dots all over your wall. That's going to be a hand texture. There's a thing called Santa Fe, and that's going to be almost like if the smooth walls and the skip trowel had a baby, where you're going to have a lot fewer of those probably like quarter size or $half size imperfections on the wall. It's a very unique look. It looks really cool when it's done correctly. Then we get into what's called knockdown or orange peel. And all of those are sprayed on textures. So here's where it gets rough. When someone is putting, if we're putting drywall back in the wall, like we tore out some walls at Mason's house, so there's going to be a drywaller that goes in. We put the pieces back in there, but they need to mud it and then texture it. When they do a texture, it's a skip trowel, so usually that one's a little easier to match because the mud kind of does its own thing when matching it. So there are certain things as the installer that you have to do to match it correctly, but it's a little easier. When you're using a compressor and a sprayer for the texture, it gets harder because if your pressure is a little different than the last guy, if your hopper, which is the container that holds all the mud, is a little different than the last guy, it's going to be a little bit different. So going back to your point, it's the mark of a good drywaller. If they can't get it perfect, I want my drywallers to make it where you have to go look for it.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing for me is on any job site that if we can catch a mistake before the customer knows about it and just fix it, that's going to be the best thing for everyone. Why? Because the customer never goes and looks specifically at that spot. So we want it to be as perfect as possible. We want things to look like they've been there for the longest time. But even I've got a customer right now, they had a hairline crack in their ceiling. It was all cosmetic. We had the drywallers come in, they did the spray texture on it, and there's a little bit of variation. But going back to, once again, I can look at other parts of the ceiling and be like, that part's different than that part. But the reason for that is it's coming out of the it's compressed air that's spraying mud at a ceiling. So that's a very long-winded way of saying when you're paying for a drywaller and if they're doing a patch and it seems expensive, it's partly because there's a process. They have to put the piece, repair the piece in the wall. So even if it's a 2 foot by 2 foot section or smaller, it's like they've got to put it there, then they have to mud it usually at least 2 times and texture it. So there's a part of it where there's some time that they have to put into it as along with just some of the material, and then it's going to be that touch. It's the skill. So the mark of an expert drywaller is when they can match it just perfectly. But like I said, with those spray textures, that's where it gets very difficult.
Yeah, and the mud part too, as far as like, especially if you have a bigger one and you got to tape it and stuff, and using the mud to fill it and almost like smoothing it out so you can't see any level changes.
Yeah, you don't want to see a bump.
They're so good at just feathering it in where like you would have to go to the, like you said, look for it. You'd have to go like patches over there, go to the side of the wall and look, and then you'd be able to see how it comes out just a little bit.
Yep.
And
I can take you.
And when you then you get on top of it, they're good at matching the texture.
Yep.
You can't even tell.
Yep. And I can take you to almost any house. I'll find a defect for you in the drywall in the wall.
Oh, I look at it. I've seen them in my house.
So the goal is to not see them, but it comes down to how was it framed? Was there anything that was missed? Because I'm not trying to say that, oh, you got to live with drywall mistakes, because when you look around, you can't see them unless you are someone who has an eye for it. So I can come and show you like, hey, I've got an eye for it. I know what to look for. Here's where someone, they kind of goofed just a little bit. But to anyone else, they're never going to see it. They're never going to know. And that's why we always want to be able to catch our mistakes before the customer sees them, because I don't want them to be able to know, oh, in that corner of the room over there was something, so they walk over there and they look at it. It's like, man, in this lighting, you can kind of maybe sometimes just barely see something. It's like, I don't want them to know it lives there. I don't want them to know it exists. It's just they have a beautiful house, and that's what it is.
So pay your drywallers.
Yep.
They work magic.
Yep. Absolutely.
And yeah. In my experience too, I mean, it's hard to get away with if you just have like a small patch and stuff like that. But the difference between a drywaller, somebody who calls himself a drywaller, and a handyman, the skill set is significant.
Oh, dude.
Significant.
Okay.
Like if you're going to hire a handyman, go on YouTube and do it yourself.
Yeah. I had a job that the drywaller took 3 months to come and do a warranty repair on. I was very upset about that. I have a different job that I'm working right now, that we're going through the process of doing this remodel for the bathroom. And I had called this new guy in I was like, hey, I'm not looking to wait 3 months. And this guy was like, all right, well, I'm available. I'm ready to go. I'm licensed. So he showed up, and he was a young guy, possibly in between our age. So you always get a little I'm sure people get nervous when they see me roll up to a job site. I kind of get nervous when I see a young guy roll up to a job site just because you want to know, how good are you? How much of that touch do you have? Dude, I'm telling you, this guy had a helper for 1 day hanging the pieces, and the rest of the time he did it by himself. Knocked it out of the frickin' park.
Yeah.
It's insane. Because we had skip trowel texture on the walls for this bathroom, and the customer wanted to go to smooth. So he did all the new drywall in the areas where we adjusted the framing, all that stuff. He had patches in certain areas. You go in there and look at that bathroom, you wouldn't know, unless you really, really knew, you wouldn't know what was repaired, what is new, all that stuff. Dude freaking killed it.
Yeah, you would have thought you just stripped down all the drywall.
Oh my gosh. So if you guys do need a drywaller in Arizona, shoot us a message because we've got somebody for you.
Nice.
No. All right, last thing real quick before we get into our phone call. There's something that has been, this is going to be a rant. So this is something that kind of hasn't sat well with me, and I've been trying to figure out, why does this always bother me? And do you ever get the conversations where someone who's older than you will be like, oh, just wait till you're 30, just wait till you're 40, just wait till you have kids, for whatever it is? Dude, that bothers the shit out of me.
That would be called a pet peeve.
Sure. It annoys me so much. And I finally feel like I figured out why. And the way that I kind of put it together in my head was that they were defeated by the thing that you're doing, right? Because if there's times where it's if I'm working on the weekends, they're like, oh, I remember when I used to do that. Or if it's working out, oh, I remember when I was in my teens, 20s, just wait till you have a kid, all these things. And it's at the end of the day, here's the thing that needs to be spoken back to them. What happens when I get to the point you're at, or I get to the point where you stopped, and I keep going? Because when you say the excuse, whatever it is, and when someone, if it was when I'm in my teens and I'm working out hard, it's oh, just wait, it'll catch up with you when you're in your 20s. Now I'm in my 20s and I'm still in good shape. Just wait till it hits you in your 30s. It's the reason why they're saying that is because they stopped.
Yeah,
they took their foot off the gas.
Yeah, it's also how people say it. The people, it's oh, well, just wait till you have a kid. It's almost you can't, I struggled, so you will struggle, kind of thing. Well, versus where it's all about, the way you say things dictates a lot about how things are perceived. People don't understand that, but if it's if you're talking about something specific and stuff, or questioning stuff, and you're oh yeah, well, just wait till you have kids, but then they whether it's long term or short, they expand it. Wait till you have kids, because you're gonna make sure that you need to schedule everything out because the kids take top priority. So you know what I'm saying? It's
you
just
can
the
tell,
way
you can tell by their tone if they're encouraging you or they're discouraging you, right? And it's kind of this backhanded way of doing it where you can't call them out and be like, hey, motherfucker, guess what? If I get to the point that you quit and I keep going, it was because the decision you made that you fucking quit and you couldn't overcome it. Because it's in those moments. You can have someone like when I was like, I'm 25, so no, I'm not that old. But a couple of years ago, I was all about working out. So I would work out twice a day. When I first started in real estate, I would wake up in the morning, go to the gym at 5 a.m., and then I'd come back in the afternoon at like 5 p.m. because that's what I wanted to do. I was trying to get at as good as I could at CrossFit, so that was where my focus was. My focus is now in the business side of things. But if I see a 20-year-old who's pulling 2-a-days and I go, oh, just wait, your mindset will shift, it's like, I'm a fucking asshole. But if I look at that person and go, dude, I remember when I did that. That was so much fun. I really enjoyed it. I hope you kill it. Knowing, like, hey, maybe their priorities will change, but maybe they won't. And maybe they go farther than I did. Good for them.
Yeah.
Good for them. I'm cheering for them. But those motherfuckers who are out there who can't live with what they chose to do and try and tear me down doing it, fuck you.
Yeah, they stopped doing 2 days because their body hurt versus you took your priorities changed.
Right.
That's what I hate too when people are like, oh, wait till you get 30, wait till you get 40, your body starts. I was like, well, like, they don't, because, I mean, I like the health and fitness stuff. It's kind of, I don't necessarily live it, and that's why I don't walk around with a 6-pack. But it's it interests me a lot. Like, I read a lot, listen to podcasts and stuff, but it's like, you're not like you said, like, they were defeated by it. Like, you're not supposed to feel like that. Whether 90% of people feel like that doesn't mean that's how you're supposed to feel. Like, so wait till you're 40, but like, I'll be fine when I'm 40 because I'm not.
Well, for me too, it's also the idea of like, right now, for me to go to the gym, I wake up at 4:40 in the morning because I need to I can be there from 5 to 6:30, and then I need to get ready to go to work. Mm-hmm. There's days where I wake up to go to the gym, I do not want to go. I will run myself into the ground where I will fall asleep sitting up. I can fall asleep driving, all those things. But there's a reason why, is because I keep showing up. Mm-hmm. So to those people who say, oh, just wait, it's like, motherfucker.
Priorities.
Yeah. And it's not that you have to do the same thing that I did, but don't make an excuse and don't tear me down in the process of me doing something that should be admired just for the discipline of it. Am I lifting the most in the world and am I the most amazing athlete? Absolutely not. But do I wake up consistently? Do I work hard? Do I go out of my way to work outside of my normal work hours to try and progress what I'm doing with my work? Absolutely.
Yeah, it's
clap, motherfucker. Don't boo.
Yeah, it's like an unsolicited negative opinion. Because most of the time when people say that, it's like you're talking about what you do, and then almost like they're jealous whether they know it or not, and they're like, well, just wait till because it didn't work out for me.
Yep.
It's like, why do you, I don't care. Like, why do you have to say that?
Yep.
So.
And at the end of the day, that leaves one thing.
Fuck you.
Well, it's going to be whatever the excuse is that person has. When I get there or whoever else gets there and keeps going, there's other people who have been in that person's exact situation and they kept going. Mm-hmm. So the question goes back to you. Why didn't you? And if you put that excuse on someone else and they get there and they don't break, why didn't you? And here, I'll leave you with this. Why can't you start today? Leave the excuse behind. Take ownership of the shit that you have. If you've got a hard schedule, there's people with hard schedules who do it.
Figure it out.
If you're someone who has kids, there are people who have kids and they figured it out. If you're someone who's going through, I don't know what, there's probably someone who's figured it out. Don't tear other people down. Leave that excuse behind and get after it, motherfuckers. Let's make a phone call.
Who we call?
My friend Forest.
Forest.
He works on...
Forrest Gump.
He works on cars.
This is Forrest.
Forrest, you are on the podcast.
Hello, everybody.
We're doing a little intro for you real quickly. So Forrest works a lot on cars. He works for a company where they do testing on vehicles, and we won't get into it too much because there is a privacy part of that, but we'll just say that Forrest's job involves...
The car guy.
There we go. So, for our once a month we're doing this where we call someone and ask them a question. So we sent this over to him a little earlier, but and we've talked about this privately, so I thought it'd be fun to share on the show about how we've seen the manufacturing of automobiles changing and how that's been affecting the mechanics working on the cars, because I'm in the construction part of the trades, but it's the blue collar section of work, and so there's certain things that we look at that and say, it seems that as these cars get more high tech, like what's the demand going to be on the people who are mechanics? So wanted to have Forrest speak to that a little bit as far as what does this look like right now, and where does it seem like all of this is heading?
So when I read these questions, I looked at it, this particular one, in two senses. One is the actual tradesman, actual mechanic who's in a shop, and it's his job to fix cars, repair cars, service cars, and then also as an at-home mechanic, somebody who will work on their car at their own home with their own tools. So for the first part, I was looking at it as a mechanic, as their job themselves. I don't see the way they work changing a whole lot, because the basics of the cars are still the same. There is an introduction more of a lot of electrical pieces, such as cruise control, assisted braking, assisted steering sometimes. Now you have the sensors that will give you warnings if a vehicle is too close, if you're traveling at a certain speed. And so with those types of tools, or let's see, what would you call that? Just kind of like the accessories that you see in cars nowadays, there's a lot more computers involved. And so what that means is that the manufacturers, when they make these things, they kind of make them in a way to where that only they can use them, right? So for an example, if you have, say, a Ford F-150, a newer one more so, let's say 2017 or newer, if you want to do a brake job, replace your rotors, your brake pads, calipers, whatever, the newer ones, they'll actually have an electric motor that'll help actuate the piston itself. And so in order to service that, you'll have to have a diagnostics tool, which means that you got to plug that into your OBD2 reader in your vehicle, and you have to go into these options and select the vehicle, year, make, model, and then there's a plethora of things that you can do. But then for this particular instance, you have to go and relax the motor.
Real quick, not to cut you off too much, but with these OBD2 readers, these are going to be a lot different. Like you said, the 17s and newer. Is there a big price point difference in between for the newer cars and then the ones probably, we'll say, 16 and older?
So OBD2, basically that is your communicator between you and your car, right? So you can go to Home Depot or Lowe's and you can find a Milwaukee or a Craftsman OBD2 scanner, and it'll allow you to see some of the monitors that the computer is monitoring, and check for engine codes, right? Because you check engine light pops up, you want to know what's going on. So you can buy just the bare basic phones for $150 or so, maybe just $100. But when you want to, start getting more to the diagnostics and being able to run checks, you're talking just for the tablet itself, you're probably looking at $3,000 or more. But then the other thing about that too is you have to buy a subscription to keep your tool up to date, or your OBD2 scanner up to date with the latest manufacturing updates for their software, essentially. So you can say buy 1 year's subscription, and it'll be good. But say, you got a newer car come in, you won't be able to access its more functionality of its OBD2 scanner without updating those costs. Like I said, yearly subscriptions, and they can cost.
So it seems that then
hundreds to more.
It seems then that the car companies have, just like how we've talked about before on the podcast, that they're going to that subscription model so that it's not even that, okay, I sell you a car and you paid cash for the car. It's like, or I guess maybe to make a better example, if instead of just having a lease or payments for the car, now they're having even a payment plan for mechanics who want to work on their cars. So they're just getting that reoccurring revenue in more areas now.
Right. And it's kind of like a positive and a negative in a way, because they'll have their, like with a Ford dealership, they'll have, I don't say pro bono, but they'll have their free diagnostics tool, but also they'll have to have their mechanics buy their own tools for the most part, and some of the tools that the company will be able to provide. But when you're talking a subscription, yeah, that is another way for them to make money. But it's kind of, I could see that being a downside. It's like if nobody's buying their subscriptions because it costs too much, then they can start to see a lot of their cars on the side of the road. Well, I say on the side of the road, but their cars won't get fixed because they're price gouging, and nobody's going to want to afford to, pay for the subscription to just diagnose the vehicle.
Yeah.
Or service it.
Which I'm assuming then just they'd have to make sure that they price it just like everything so that the mechanic shops are going to be wanting to pay that yearly subscription. And if you can get as many of those shops paying for that as possible, then that number starts to add up pretty quickly.
Right, and like you'll have some like the bigger garages such as Big O, Firestone, Brulix. They will probably have kind of like a bundle of sorts where it's like, all right, or a deal, I should say, is like, hey, you have these many stores and these many code scanners. They might cut them a little bit of a deal, but still in the end it is pretty expensive. Say you were to have your mechanic, just at home, do-it-yourselfer, and they want to be able to work on their car, but it's going to cost them $10,000 to do a $500 repair. So it just seems ridiculous, and it kind of forces people now to go to dealerships or other automotive repair service companies.
Yeah, makes sense. Real quick, before we let you go, Mason's got a question for you.
Yeah,
shoot.
This is kind of a personal question, but I think most people are curious about it. Is that with these new cars, the all-electric cars, obviously they got batteries inside of there. What is your opinion on how, like, the Arizona heat would affect an all-electric car? Like, is that going to reduce the battery life? Is it going to reduce the charge? Like, is that something that you should think about when you're looking to get an all-electric car? Is like, where do you live in Arizona, so this 120 heat, is that going to reduce the life of the batteries on these cars? Because I know that's kind of where they get expensive.
Right. I'd say in general, the excessive heat is bad for batteries. But one thing that the EV batteries have going for them is they actually have a cooling system that will help to cool the batteries, keep them at a optimal operating temperature. But that will, from what I've seen in my work, it could create potential hazards and to great scales.
Gotcha. So we're kind of still in the learning phase with the whole all battery operated stuff.
I'd say so. If you can probably do like a Google search and you can look up how many vehicles are on the road, or electric vehicles are on the road in the United States, and you're looking at maybe a little over 1 million. But if you were to, cross that with, all right, how many gas cars are on the road? Gas, trucks, anything that's, has fuel,
Gotcha.
aside from battery, you're looking at 250 plus million. And so if you were to do the math, you take your 1 million, a little over 1 million electric vehicles divided by your 250 plus million gas cars, you're looking at less than half of 1% or so of electric vehicles operating on the road.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like you can say that, the electric vehicles work, yes, but there's other things to consider when, the longevity of an electric vehicle, because they're still fairly new.
Yeah.
As like an all-electric vehicle. You've had hybrids now for maybe almost 2 decades, I think, and able to work out some of the kinks still. But with all-electric vehicles, they're still new to the market, and it's just kind of one of those things that time will tell with those.
Nice. Cool. Well, we appreciate you hopping on with us for a little bit. We will.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll catch you later. You have a good night.
You as well.
All right. Later, Forrest.
Bye.
Boom.
I've been looking to get into electric trucks. I was a little curious.
Which one are you looking at?
If in a perfect world, the Rivian.
The Rivian?
Yeah, but probably not. Plus, I'm still worried about the same thing. It's in the beginning stages, so
Yeah.
I have an $80,000 car for 2 years. I'm not about that life.
Yeah. California's trying to make it about that life in 7 years.
Yep.
A little aggressive, but whatever. All right. Any closing thoughts for the podcast?
No.
All right. Where can they find you?
At MasonOxendale on the IG. Easiest way.
Cool. You can see what we're doing for the construction side at Cyto_building. For Instagram, we've got. I'm going to start trying to post there on Twitter as well, just because supporting Elon Musk for now. What is that? That's at Sledge in Office, I believe. And then YouTube, if you guys are watching on there, you've probably already seen some of the stuff that we're uploading. If you guys are on Spotify, you can check out some of the other videos that we're uploading, some of our shorter stuff. We're trying to get Mason's project on there. We're going to try and start pushing more content that direction, and then we might be looking to actually, this is probably way too early to tease this, but there might...
We'll talk about it next podcast. We'll tease it next podcast.
No.
Oh.
There might be a newsletter that comes down the pipe in the next couple months. So, a little early for that, but just get you all excited. So, until next time, I hope your hammer stays accurate.
Your Wi-Fi fast.
And you work blessed. See you, everybody.